Sheriff Bill Waybourn of Tarrant County joins me right now in the middle of this pandemic. He is still there serving and protecting. Sheriff, always so good to see you.
Dana, it's always a privilege and honor to be here.
Well, and I know this is not an easy time for police, law enforcement at all right now, and not only because you got like a three-pronged task here, so to speak. You're trying to keep yourself safe and healthy, make sure that citizens are able to get health care and that they're staying healthy, and then also you're looking with what's happening in the prison systems with the spread of this Wuhan coronavirus. And you all, I think, as we watch stories of so many different state officials releasing prisoners to stop the spread. We had a story yesterday of a man who went out and murdered someone right after he had been released because of the coronavirus. Really, when I was looking at some of the reporting on it as to how we're handling it in Texas and how Tarrant's been handling it, that really honestly should be a model, not just for the state of Texas, but it really should be a national model. Tell folks a little bit about the protocols that you're using that's still where you're not having to do what these other lawmakers are doing.
We're absolutely not releasing anybody that doesn't need to be released. But we did early on. We were able. We have some great chiefs over in our jail, and they recommended some strong protocols right off the bat, and we set those up. And some of them had to do with screening prisoners and employees before they ever enter the facilities. So we were able to head off or starve off that virus. We had a good 4-week run, and unfortunately, we now have a few prisoners that have it, but they are isolated. And were isolated when we knew that they were confirmed to have the virus. So we think we have cordoned off the spread in the jail, and we set that straight. But as far as releasing prisoners, I'm absolutely adamantly opposed to that, other than them going through the justice system. I think yesterday some misdemeanors with nonviolent crimes that some of their sentences were commuted, but they were absolutely not a threat to the community. But the bad guys, if you will, they're safely behind bars. They're going to stay there until their day in court. And even after that, we have probably close to 200 prisoners waiting to go to the prison system that we will hang on to.
Wow, that is good to hear, though. It's good to hear because, and you worry about also the jailhouse employees, and you worry about police that are dealing with this as well. In your with the people that you oversee, how has it been in terms of infections and people getting sick or people having to isolate? Because you've always been, I think Tarrant County is special, and I think Texas is special, but very proactive with so many different issues. How much has policing changed because of those preventative protocols with this pandemic?
Well, they have changed. I mean, for instance, all of our jailers are wearing masks and have the personal protection equipment with them. We have also started having that stuff with them early on. Our patrol officers out in the field, they have that protective equipment. Early on, and we're out of some of this, we've had 4 Tarrant County SO folks go down with the virus. All of them right now are mild cases, and the 2 have already returned to work. They were 2 of our investigators. They've returned to work and doing great, donating blood back to UT Southwest to see if they can provide relief. But also we have 2 others that are out right now with it. One of them we think is healthy, and he's going to be okay and get a negative test today. So we've only had 4. But what we did early on is we set up protocols for quarantines. If somebody was sick, they stayed home. We got them tested. And for all the listeners, we had 4 times negative tests come back than we have positive. So, I mean, most of the people come back and it's not corona.
That is a relief to hear. And we're continuing to pray for everyone's safety and health that is serving there. You see some of these stories, and this has been now more and more of these stories are being discussed. You saw some of the protests happen in Michigan and in other parts of the country where some of the orders that come down from some of the governors are a little draconian. You got, if you're standing in a store, for instance, in Michigan, and you see maybe you want to plant a garden, well, those items were considered non-essential, even though they were right there in the store, just steps away from the register. And it seems that, people are I think are testy. They got cabin fever. We've never been through anything like this. We have no blueprint from which to go by. And I would just think that, you have certain lawmakers that maybe could just have a little bit more grace on some of this stuff for people. But instead, I've been seeing, we had a video last week where we were showing a guy jogging by himself on the beach, and he was pursued on foot by law enforcement. And then there was a guy paddleboarding, and he was chased down on a boat. How much discretion do law enforcement officers have when it comes to enforcing some of these stay-at-home orders and these isolation orders? Give us a little bit of insight into that.
Well, I can speak for Tarrant County right now that our officers have incredibly broad discretion. In fact, we are on an education and encouragement tour when we see things that, that we have people that are gathering. Now, we're encouraging people to get out of the house, go exercise, just social distancing and all that stuff. And but if we're seeing crowds gather, we will just encourage them to disperse and remind them of what's going on and that kind of thing. And people, and maybe this is Texans, they go, yes, sir, and move on. And so everything is really well there. We've arrested no one on any orders. And our instructions are absolutely last resort will we arrest people. And the scenarios that we've talked about arresting people is that person that maybe wants to use this as a weapon and want to try to enter buildings where people are or something like that, and they know that they're infected or they will not stop.
Yeah, and that makes, and I've seen stories where people will go into stores where the people, all the other customers there just to get their groceries, their everyday essentials, they have their masks on and gloves, and then you see video of, there was one woman who was just coughing on everything that was on the shelves in there. Obviously, that's kind of purposefully doing it. She was very purposefully doing it. That's dangerous right now.
It's dangerous, and that's domestic terrorism.
Oh, wow. So that actually ascends all the way up to that.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and then we're seeing intelligence where there are radical groups trying to encourage that kind of thing. Wow. So we want to, we're going to take it. We're going to take it at that level until we know better.
The president had these guidelines that the reopening of America that he released yesterday, and I know it just happened. And you may not have seen the governor, Greg Abbott, who had a press conference talking about how it sounds like Texas is going to be moving based on how quickly other test sites can get set up into that phase 1, and that does change some of the requirements and some of the stay at home, the isolation, and all of that stuff. What advice do you have for people who, because there's going to be a lot of different states and localities that are going to be in different phases, and how do you encourage people, first off, to make sure that they're staying up to date with all of that? But if they have questions in their area about what phase are we in, and what should I do? Is it still only essential? Should I still wear a face covering? Do I have to wear a face covering if I take public transit? Where would you advise people to go to get that information? Because it sounds like it's going to be changing pretty rapidly.
It is a very fluid battlefield, but I would encourage them for 3 sites here in Tarrant County. Number one, Governor Abbott's website is going to have all that information, but also Tarrant County website is going to have all of that information, and then the Tarrant County Public Health Group is going to have all of that information on what we should be doing and shouldn't be doing, and it's good information there.
Yeah.
And I visit those sites personally all the time to see if anything has changed.
Right, exactly. What are you seeing out from just citizens and obviously I know Texas is a little bit different, but in terms of people just, I don't want to say compliance because, you got a lot of liberty-minded folks in Texas. I don't look at it like that. I look at it as they're being good stewards of their fellow man, and they're just caring for each other and looking out for each other. But what has been kind of your experience in going about your daily duties as sheriff? What are you seeing from the community?
Well, I will tell you, I concur with what you just said, is we got a lot of liberty-minded people, but, better yet is the Texas people love their neighbors and they're looking after their neighbors. So that's what I'm seeing, is people staying away, people doing what they're supposed to be doing, understand that they need to watch out for the other person. But that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of good people do good things just like I thought they would.
Last question for you, Sheriff. Where's the first non-essential place you will go when this shutdown order is lifted?
That is a great question. I haven't gave that 2 seconds of thought of what is a non-essential place. But I'd love to go see a movie. I'd love to go see a movie, but that might be a while before we get to do that. But that's one of the places I'd like to go.
Well, there you go. Well, if we stay on with the testing and are able to minimize any outbreaks, it looks like Texas may be in phase 2 sooner rather than later. Sheriff Bill Waybourn, with your help too, God willing, we appreciate you and all the officers everywhere, but also in Tarrant and here in Texas. Sheriff, thank you so much. Bill Waybourn, everybody.